The shoopuff let out a low, bubbling groan as it lumbered through the shallow waters of the moonflow. Lantern bugs danced in the air, their faint blue light flickering like memories over the ripples. It stretched before them like a living mirror, quietly shimmering under the soft cover of dusk. Auron sat straight-backed, ever vigilant, arms crossed as his red coat billowed slightly with the river breeze. Jecht leaned lazily over the railing, half watching the water and half wondering if it would be considered rude to fish from a holy transport. High Summoner Lord Braska sat between them, his white robes fluttering gently, and a soft smile forming as the river's peace seemed to settle in his bones. They had all just left Guado Salam, and he was exhausted from his visit to the far plain. Many find peace there, they had said, but he had come to bring peace to others, not to seek it for himself. The probing and calculated gaze of Lord Jiskel didn't help. Every exchange was politics veiled in pleasantries, and Braska could sense that the Lord's young son was already being groomed for a future steeped in lustful ambition. Thinking about that boy reminded him of his own daughter, the one he left behind in Bevel, where his pilgrimage began. Auron and Jecht were having another argument, this time about whether or not the shoopuff was a fiend. Braska decided to interrupt. "You know," he began, voice calm and nostalgic, "you once tried to summon—" Jecht turned, raising an eyebrow. "Your kid? What, like a real Aeon? Didn't she, 6? Auron's gaze didn't shift from the horizon, but his interest was clear. Braska chuckled softly. "Not a real Aeon, no, but she didn't understand that at the time. She had seen me pray at the temple in Besaid after her mother passed. I suppose children see more than we think." "So what'd she do?" Jecht asked, genuinely curious. "She went to a small shrine near the beach," Braska said, "with her arms raised just so. She'd mimicked the gesture perfectly. She stood there for nearly an hour. I watched from afar. She was so still, so serious. She thought if she prayed long enough, Valifor would come." Jecht gave a short laugh. "That's cute. What happened?" Braska looked down at his hands, silent for a moment. The shoopuff let out a very deep and watery exhale. "Eventually she cried. Not loudly, just tears. I came to her then, and she asked me why the faith hadn't answered." His voice dropped into something softer. "I told her that the faith sleep deeply, and that only summoners with great strength can wake them. She looked up at me and said, 'Then I'll be strong too, like you.'" Even Auron's expression shifted slightly, just a blink slower, with the tension softened. "She has your resolve," Auron said after a moment. "Too much, perhaps," Braska said with a rueful smile. "I fear she sees the path I walk as something noble." "Well," Jecht shrugged, "from where she's standing it probably is." Braska nodded, but said nothing more. The gentle sway of the shoopuff continued as fireflies traced slow arcs across the midst. Braska's memory of Yuna lingered in the air like incense, fragrant with love, bittersweet with sacrifice. Auron remained quiet, but his brow furrowed slightly, as if filing the story away alongside everything else he'd taken upon himself to remember. And then Jecht shifted, arms still draped on the railings, his eyes still fixed on the water. He let out a short, slow sigh. "You know," he said, voice lower than usual, "I've seen that look before, too. On my boy." Auron glanced sideways but said nothing. Jecht kept his gaze on the river. "He was little, maybe 4, 5. I just gotten back from a game. I can still hear the crowd buzzing. Light still burning in my head. He comes running up to me with his old blitzball, barely bigger than his head. Said he wanted to show me something. I barely walked in the door. I throw my stuff down. I say to him, 'All right, yeah, show me what you got.' He'd been practicing some move. Trying to copy the Jecht shot, of course. Must have seen it in the holosphere replay. Anyway, he goes to kick it, slips, misses completely, and falls right into the sand. The ball rolls off into the surf." Braska gave a quiet chuckle, but said nothing. Then Jecht's voice softened. "I thought he'd laugh it off, like I would have. He didn't, though. He just sat there, fists in the sand, crying. Not loud, just mad at himself. Mad at the ball. Mad at me, probably, I don't know. I almost told him to toughen up. That's what my old man would have done. But I didn't." "What did you do?" Braska asked gently. Jecht scratched the back of his neck. "Well, I sat down next to him. Didn't say anything. Just picked up the ball, handed it back. Eventually he stopped crying, got up, tried again, missed again." A grin ghosted across his face. "He didn't stop, though. Eventually he had to go to bed, but it was a long night." Braska smiled. "Sounds like he's got your fire." Yeah, maybe too much, Jecht said, echoing Braska's earlier words. Then after a beat, he added quietly, He'll hate me, you know, when I don't come back. Auron didn't flinch, but the shoopuff groaned again, as if it too was burdened by the previously unspoken truth. Braska placed a hand on Jecht's shoulder. He won't understand now, but he will one day, and when he does, he'll know how much you loved him. Jecht scoffed, but didn't pull away. Yeah, well, I guess love's weird like that. The shoopuff glided on, the soft hum of the water beneath blending with the croaks of distant shoopuff handlers calling to one another from the far bank. Jecht leaned back with a stretch, glancing at Auron with a mischievous glint that usually meant trouble. All right, old man, he said with a grin. Braska's got his kid, I've got mine. What about you? Is there a little Auron swinging around a tiny katana somewhere? Auron's eyes narrowed behind his glasses. No. Ah, come on, Jecht pressed. You're not that made of stone. There had to have been someone. A girl in Bavel? Maybe a priestess with bad taste. Braska raised an eyebrow with a faint knowing smile. You've never spoken of your past, Auron. Not once. Auron was silent for a while. The lantern bugs flickered again, their blue glow soft against the darkness, and the shoopuff let out another low rumble. Finally, there was someone, Auron said at last, eyes still fixed on the water. A long time ago, before I became a warrior monk. Jecht blinked. Really? She was kind, brave, the sort of person who saw right through everything. The titles, the armor, the walls. He exhaled slowly. I thought, maybe. So what happened? Braska asked softly. Auron just shook his head. I chose Yevon, the teachings, discipline, duty. She said she admired it, said she understood. But he let the words trail off into the mist. You pushed her away, Jecht guessed. Auron didn't answer, which was answer enough. After a pause, he added quietly, Attachment makes you vulnerable. It clouds judgment, makes you hesitate. That sounds like a temple sermon, Jecht muttered. It is the truth, Auron said. If I let myself love someone and lost them, he trailed off again, jaw tightening, I would fail at what matters most. Braska's voice was warm, quiet. And what matters most, Auron? Auron didn't look at them. Protecting those who still have something to live for. Jecht leaned back, chewing on that. Huh. So you're saying you don't love people, you just protect them? Auron turned his gaze to Jecht. It's the same thing in the end. The shoopuff trudged on through the starlit mist. Braska smiled faintly, eyes lowered. Then Yuna will be lucky. One day, when I'm gone, if she has a guardian like you, she'll be in good hands. Auron turned to Braska. She will. I promise. The shoopuff creaked along its path as silence returned, quiet and contemplative. The three men, the warrior, the drunkard, the summoner, drifted downriver not yet as legends or saviors, but as men who understood each other a little more deeply than they had yesterday. Ahead of them was Josie Temple and another cloister of trials. Shaped like a massive cluster of crystalline spires, the very air began to crackle as they approached. The temple was alive with energy. The walls pulsed faintly with lightning trapped in the stone, and monks walked the halls with reverent caution. It was another place where Lord Braska would trade a piece of himself for power in order to rid the world of sin and bring what might finally be eternal calm. Echoes in the Mist, inspired by Final Fantasy X. Produced and narrated by Taylor McMahon.